Welcome, one and all, here to the South American DPC as we continue with the third tour on the way towards TI and some very important games coming up today. It's a good day to be a South American Dota fan because all four teams that placed in the top four last season are back to play against each other today. Going to be some hype games with some potentially very interesting results with large ramifications for the season down the line. My name's Snare and I'm joined by Sexy Fat and Kips. And how are y'all doing? How y'all feeling, Kips? How are you feeling about the games that we have today? Because it does seem like they're all going to be electric, right?
They will be, yeah, for sure. I'm honored, honestly, that I get to sit in on some of the hypest games of this season, and I'm very glad to have an absolute expert by my side here as well, who's going to hopefully teach us all some of the ins and outs. So bring it on.
Bring it on indeed. And the expert is you, Mr. Sexy Fat. You are going to be joining us. Not only are these games going to be hyped, but a lot of your colleagues are involved here, and you've got some of the lowdown. Tell us, before we even get into the games, right? What surprises can we expect? What's been going on in the underground of the South American Dota scene?
Thanks very much. First, glad to be here. To be honest, I don't know that much. I'm a bit outside of the scenario, but what can I say is both teams are good. Both team wants to win, and I'm definitely sure there's a beef between them. And it's gonna be a hot game to watch today.
Oh, hot game indeed. Actually, speaking of beef, something that was kind of interesting about the last season, right, is that there's some contention as to whether or not Hokori, who's going to be playing today against Thunder Predator to start the day, Thunder Awaken rather, excuse me. There's some contention as to whether or not they should actually have been at the last major. So what do you make of that, Sexy Fat? It came very close. There was a tiebreaker, of course, between themselves and Beast Coast. Do you think that if they had gone to the major, how do you think they would have performed in that kind of situation?
Yeah, you talk about Thunder?
No, about Hokori on the other side. Thunder did well, of course.
Hokori,
yeah,
they got really close to go to the major. I actually don't know because I don't think any of the Hokori players ever went to major. So it's always a mystery. Like some of them can choke or they can shine. I don't know. But knowing their players, I believe they would have a stable result, a decent result.
Oh, that's certainly good to hear. Because I know that this past major, right, was one about clutching or shining, with a lot of teams actually falling under the pressure. So I would have personally liked to see some more young blood come up there and not have OG be, the only hype lineup that could really drift on their own legend, so to speak. I would have liked to see some more new blood in there. So, Hokori, maybe this season around.
We hope. I mean, it's always good to get some new blood. I mean, last season, when we saw Thunder Awaken going to the major, nobody really expected the major splash they'd be making. I mean, if you were a consistent watcher of South American Dota, there weren't that many surprises given their performance. The only real surprise, Kips, was who they were doing that performance against. But their playstyle, it did evolve, but it didn't markedly deviate from what they were already doing in the second tour of the DPC.
Yeah, and I honestly, if I may say it, I'm a little disappointed at the showing that Thunder Awaken gave at the major, because I do consider them to be the best team fighting team in the world, most likely, and it felt like they leaned on that almost too much. Like, their laning stages looked shaky, and then afterwards, sure, they fight like absolute monsters. You can never count them out, but I almost feel like they relied on that too much. It's like, oh, fine, we can do whatever we want in the lane because once we fight, we're going to win anyway. It almost felt like that, though I'm not actually sure if that's the truth. It just feels like that.
And most people say it's like the strong part of South America is the team fight. The teams fight very well.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Dota is sometimes a bit more than just a team fighting, right? And whenever that can get exploited, we have seen some teams have a bit of difficulty adapting to that kind of situation. But speaking of team fighting, the meta has been evolving in such a way, given that, it's a new patch. Right now, not everything's been figured out just yet, even though it's not that big of a massive change, right, from the last patch that we had before. Sexy Fat, tell me, what heroes do you think are going to be very useful that we didn't see in last tour that are going to be utilized in those team fighting roles going into this next patch?
I don't think it's gonna change that much. So what I'm seeing a lot is like you have a hero to give you vision. For example, I've seen Beastmaster a lot, even Zeus support or mid lane, so you just press ulti and you have a blink stun on your team. And basically what I'm seeing, like who gets the first initiation, who blows up the first target, usually gets to win the fight. So the heroes I want to see and I expect to see is like Beastmaster, Zeus, Centaur, Mars, those initiation / vision heroes.
Very excited to hear that you rate the Centaur as well, because his stun is actually insane right now, isn't it? Like
2
suddenly
seconds
one of
at
the
level
best.
1.
Yeah. and we haven't seen it a lot yet. At least I haven't seen it a lot yet in other regions. So I'd be very hyped if South America actually now comes up with valuing it, because everyone has been talking about it, but nobody has been picking it.
Yeah, it's been fairly underpicked. There's been a couple of games where I've seen it being banned out, but not that many picks. I have the stat here somewhere, 14 picks across the entire DPC. So not as valued as we would imagine it would be. However, across those 14 picks, 57% win rate, not too terrible. And like you say, 2 seconds stun at level 1, just kind of ridiculous. We have a big hero that can use that Stampede. And, you know, speaking of heroes like Centaur, we need to see if that hero is going to be involved in this game at all, which needs a draft of Dota, which we finally have up and ready. So let's get into it. Here we go. Game number 1. Hokori taking on Thunder Awaken. And one question I have for y'all. Do you think Mars is going to be involved in this game at all? And if she is, has South America been the region to finally figure out exactly how to make her work?
I think we're gonna probably see Marcy here. And I'm seeing a lot of teams picking it. I think people are figuring out this hero's OP and how you can play it in competitive.
Well,
Clockwork, of
so
course, going
far,
to be first pick.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I love that this hero is suddenly, because we talked about this before, didn't we, Snare? Where we're like, hey, the buff was like significant enough that it helps a hero that normally doesn't farm out with a little bit of farm, a little bit of wave clear, but most of all, we got an excuse to pick this hero, and boy, have all these supports, but also cores, been picking up that excuse to just take this hero. And the mobility and vision, I mean, did Sexy Fat just said, right? Vision, initiation, Clockwork's going to give you both.
Yep. Tons of jump, some laning presence as well. Very, very good hero right now. And feels fun to play. It's always just been enjoyable to utilize. On the other side for Thunder Awaken, we go back to that team fight that we were talking about a little bit ago. Mars going to be available. And this Weaver that comes out right now. I'll be honest, I've sort of fallen out of favor with this hero. It feels much more temperamental than it's been in the last couple of patches, but especially right now. And it hasn't really been picked all that often in the region either, Sexy Fat. Only enjoying 2 games overall. Has won both of them, but you know, the hero has just fallen off in stock. Do you still think that it should be this highly valued to open up in your first phase with? Is it still that versatile?
Not for all teams, but for Thunder in specifically, I do. Because if I'm not mistaken, they can go offlane Weaver, position 4 Weaver, and even position 5 Weaver. So it's a big pick for them. They can flex it very well.
Ooh, and TA first phase now. They're just slamming it right down on the table. It's like, fine, you got some minus armor going, we got some minus armor going. If you get like a good initiation with Clockwork, good vision, you split up a team fight, Templar Assassin can definitely take advantage of the singled out targets there. And I feel like the matchup of a Weaver versus a Clockwork, like sure you can time lapse out of cogs if that is really necessary, but at the same time though, your mobility does not actually let you get past the cogs. You don't get and you don't usually build any items that let you get out either. So this is a bit. The Weaver can also definitely have a tough time versus the Clock anyway.
And I'm putting in the TA into that mix as well. I mean, Clockwork also has the potential to just break up team fights in interesting ways, allowing TA the time to just rinse down any squishy heroes that Thunder Awaken do decide to pick up later in the draft. We'll see what they're going to respond to in the safe lane position though. But I think Thunder Awaken will probably wait for a while until we see that. For now, banning out this Puck. What do y'all make of Puck? This hero has just been... I've had a lot of different conversations with people. From some people thinking that Puck is kind of a trash hero right now, to others who think it's the most broken hero from the mid lane. What are your sentiments about this role in the game overall, and how strong is the hero?
I personally believe Buck is one of the strong heroes in the meta for mid lane, because mid lane is all about pushing waves and farming small camp most of the times, and with Buck you can do it both. Like, just eclipse, you use your orb in direction of small camp and you still farm like the normal creeps in the lane, so eventually like 6 minutes you're 500, 600 gold out ahead of the enemy mid laner, if the enemy mid laner cannot farm small camps. That's one of the reasons I think Buck is so strong this patch.
Mm-hmm. And then on that level 6, he's so good for supports to rotate into, right? All he really needs from his supports is to just bring more damage in, because he'll hold them there. He'll just drop the coil. And I think that's the combination that makes him powerful. I actually had another question here, Sexy Fat. What do you make of this Naga Siren ban? Because I normally only see this ever as like if there's a Terrorblade on the table, but I doubt they're going to make TB on Hokori. They count the Naga as that much of a counter to the TA?
Actually, I agree with you. I don't think it's that much of a problem, but maybe Hokori knows something we don't know. I don't know, maybe some information about screens that Thunder was practicing Naga, or they just respect Baka's Naga. I don't know. Maybe they just feel like it banning Naga.
Naga Siren, to me, it might be one of those situations where you just don't want to be annoyed, where even if you win the game, you want to at least have some positive morale at the end of it. So, Naga Siren, still decent enough to ban here. I was going to think about what we go here for the offlane matchup from the side of Hokori. Generally speaking, lately when I've been seeing this TA, I don't want her to be the one that makes the primary jump. Of course, there is a clockwork as well, but also kind of very useful in the secondary role. So who do we have to start off the fights? Centaur is still in the pool. This Brewmaster has been banned out. I mean, we get a Beastmaster ban, Ogre ban. Ogre Pick, sorry, with the Doom ban out earlier. Ogre Pick, all right. Are we setting up for some hyper carry role here for the side of Thunder Awaken for Pakaz?
Might just be for the Weaver. Because he definitely loses out in the farm war versus a lot of these heroes with innate farming abilities. But yeah, they're keeping their draft open here. This could also be a Medusa, for example, if they really want to go that way.
True, and Medusa is a bigger counter of Templar. It's really a good pick for Thunder. And if I'm not mistaken, Sacred, I've seen Sacred playing Weaver against Templar many times, so I think he's very comfortable playing this matchup. And maybe we can see Dark Mago Mars.
That would be a treat. I love his Mars. And yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say, Snare, is I think you're completely right about the offlane matchup, especially for Hokori, because the last time these two teams matched up, that definitely seemed to be their weak spot in the game, where they really just couldn't get their offlane off the ground. And then the mid game becomes so hard versus a team like Thunder Awaken, who are... I mean, Hokori is good at the fights too, don't get me wrong, but Thunder Awaken are certainly extra very good. And you're up versus TA safe lane now.
Yep. TA safe lane, certainly going to be the build here with this Ember Spirit going into this mid lane. To touch on more on this Weaver, I just realized as well that given that they've got this Ogre, they've got that flexibility to put the Weaver one or Medusa one, can save it for the last overall pick, which they do have. And of course, they are completely undefeated with the Weaver. Thunder Awaken have never lost a game, at least on this patch, with this hero. So, and they played it on every different role, even in situations where Dark Mago has gone mid on the Mars. Very excited to see how that's going to pan out. Also excited to see this combination of supports. I'm glad I'm not in this game, personally. Gareth, Mage versus Clockwork. Oh
yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun here, Sexy Fat. Going to get bursted down quite easily by this magic damage.
People are going to die this game. Oh, these two ultimates, no one's going to be saved.
Hokori's got so much damage. Like, you can do two things about that. You can either build damage of your own and say, all right, fine, we're just, blood's gonna flow. We're gonna sacrifice some more to the blood gods. Or you can think about how you're going to use your buybacks. Because the more burst damage the enemy has, and especially like the more limited that burst damage is, like Skyrise Mage emptying out his mana pool, the more important it's going to be, and the more powerful it's going to be to just bring heroes back and say, lol, actually, we don't care.
You win for more in the end. I was really expecting Medusa, so it's a hard carry that couldn't get bursted by the Sky Mage Clockwork combo, for example, but if your reflexes are on point, I think you can manage to do it this with Morphling as well.
Yeah, I'd say so. And you get an actual way to get out of the cogs, right? Which Medusa, like, I guess you'd have to buy the full Hurricane Pike. A lot of Deuces don't want to do that.
Yeah. But both picks are not gonna get bursted by this combo. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, such a value Manta style game as well. Like, it was always going to be a Manta style carry.
And it's one of the few games where if you do play this Morphling, you're not going to feel super awful if you have to end up going for Manta Lincolns. Doesn't feel uber defensive here. Can certainly be justified. Specialty heroes right now being banned out from the mid lane because they now are aware that dealing with the Morphling does sort of limit what Thunder Awaken can do with the rest of their heroes. Batrider being taken away, so none of that for either Dark Mago or for the off lane here. And this Veno ban. Venomancer banned in the very last phase here, Kips. Talk to me about this. What's the rationale for this one? Why remove that in lieu of any other hero from this game?
I mean, normally when I see this ban, right, I'd get like, oh, they want to play a Faceless Void or an Ursa or something, but I don't see any reasons for either of those heroes here, so I'd actually agree that this is mostly respect, and just Veno is so much value right now. Like, with this much damage on the field, they certainly want like a team fight, like, the damage over time could be extremely powerful here. If you look at Hokori wanting to burst people, and now you have to fight last, especially versus a Venomancer. Like, if the Veno lives, if he builds, God forbid, he builds a pipe. Venomancers still do that sometimes, right? Then suddenly, versus a Venom, you get absolutely no shot with this lineup as soon as your damage drops below the threshold necessary to remove people before you start ticking down. And now Lycan.
Okay, so
Where's
this is the
team
off
fight
lane hero
control?
now. I was wondering the same thing. I mean, you get this push. I saw this in China earlier this morning where they put also Lycan in the offlane in a similar kind of position where there wasn't that much team fight, but a lot of tempo that could maybe come from the game in order to like overwhelm the enemy team. But I don't know, Sexy Fat. This feels like a tall order here. Thunder Awaken already have Mars. We haven't seen what the Dark Mago hero is going to be yet. His Tiny still in the game. His Kunkka still in the game. There's a lot of ability to fight against Hokori still potentially to come. So why Lycan of all the heroes that they could have picked?
I'm also thinking for a reason. I think Vitality will need to impress us because it's clearly like not a. It's a decent game, but yeah. If I were in Hokori's in Vitality shoes, I wouldn't ask for Lycan playing against Mars and having like not a decent lane against Morphling.
I know, right? Like, every time I see Lycan players pick the Lycan into the Mars, I'm like, you have huge cojones, my friend. Like, because that I consider that one of the strongest counters in the game, and now you get the Underlord on top of that as well. So we got a core Mars, we've got the Root plus the army killing Rain of Fire as well. This is looking pretty rough for Hokori to execute.
And it is going to be that Dark Mago Mars that's going to be occupying the mid lane. And this is the third time that they've run this particular strat with the support Weaver mid Mars, and they have yet to lose with it. Gibbs, tell me some good news, right? This is a somewhat atypical draft that we see from Hokori here, but what's the potential? How do they win with this unorthodox last pick Lycan?
I mean, they have a ton of vision here between the TA and the Clockwork. They have a ton of burst damage here. They have straight up silence from Skywrath Mage against the Weaver, against the Morphling. If you keep this game balling, then the Lycan actually makes a lot of sense, because what you need to do is you also need to take those towers down in order to actually constrict Thunder Awaken. So in that regard, the Lycan fills a win condition here that if you want to actually win this game in time, then yeah, they have the tools to do that now, but they're walking a tightrope.
It is definitely a tightrope, and of course, speaking of that tightrope, they have escape mechanisms for any kind of danger they get into for Thunder Awaken. So, Sexy Fat, very quickly, with this last pick Underlord, what's the mechanism that they need for Thunder Awaken if they want to walk away with this game?
They need to hold the ties. Like, they're gonna lose towers, they're gonna lose Roshan, most likely first Roshan, but they need to not go despair mode, not lose their head, keep farming and try to hit their timings, and then win. Yeah. If this game go through beyond 30 minutes, I think Thunder Awaken have a pretty good chance to win.
We'll see which side of the coin that this game is going to land on between Thunder Awaken and Hokori. An incredibly important matchup between these two, wanting to set their record very highly in the beginning of this third tour of the DPC. We're going to be finding out how the game is going to pan out with Gareth and Lacoste. Take it away, boys. Good luck. Have fun. Talk to you after the game.
Thank you so much. Yeah, here we are. And Lacoste, I'm absolutely ready for upset time. You know, South American Dota, we've already had a bunch already. Beast Coast the other day losing out to Wolf Team. We've had Thunder Awaken lose to Infamous 2-0. And these two teams, like Snare was saying earlier on, these were Thunder Awaken top spot, third place for Hokori. Of course, Beast Coast was up there at the top as well. But now it's starting to look like hammer on this point. Every win matters, Lacoste. Every win matters.
It really does. I think the only thing that can get upset from this Lycan last pick is my stomach. I don't think Lycan's going to be able to do much in this game. Like, this was their last pick. Usually, like, I'd say Lycan players, they feel comfortable playing into certain matchups, but playing into Underlord Mars, like Weaver 4, like you don't, like even Morphling, like you don't have the target to lock onto. So I think Skyret Mage will need to do a lot of heavy lifting, being able to lock down heroes, but also feel very, very, very vulnerable. Like you have Skyret Mage against like all this damage. Whenever, like, sure, they have some burst. Like it's gonna be good Skyret Mage in terms of silence if you can get like multiple silences off value, because Weaver doesn't get to play the game. This is a position 4 Weaver where you're like, well, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm gonna have a really hard time. Because Weaver as a support got nerfed. Shikuchi. 15 seconds if you hover over the spell. Like, it doesn't even say, that was a long time ago. It doesn't even say that changes were made in the last 2-3 months.
It can be a bit rough. And yeah, back to your point, right? Even the fact there's an ogre on the table means Lycan doesn't have a target, doesn't have a squishy support to really chase and kill consistently through the game. And it really feels like Hokori's lineup is that epitome of initiation first. Whoever gets the initiation in these team fights likely to come out ahead.
They can burst. Like, on side of Hokori, they do have burst damage, like Ever Spirit playing with Skyret Mage or just Clockwork. So you're always going to need to be careful. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that El Misho needs to done on this Skyret Mage. Like, he needs to be off to a really good start. Looking at the top lane, there's going to be some harassment coming out. We already see Thunder Awaken adjusting. They are buying a lot of tangos, not too many healing salves. There is one coming out for Ogre on the courier, but other than that, he's going to be okay. Having extra units in the lane like Lycan does against Ignite is always going to be good, because you know that Ignite has lower chances of hitting.
Sure does. And an unconventional lane matchup, or a lane partnership, I should say, right? Lycan Sky. Usually we see the Sand King, the Legion Commander, all these kind of catch and kill heroes. So partnership for the Sky is going to be the Clockwork primarily, once we get their level 6s up and get out of the laning stage, see what they can do. That's always nice to have, is like two supports that can roam around and kill people.
Exactly. I was always a big fan of that. Dark Mago on a mid lane, dropping very low. I mean, he has almost perfect CS, missed 2 of those, but invested a lot in region. Bottle is coming up. Water rune spawning in 10 seconds. I don't know. I just wanted to say that I've been really impressed by position 5 Clockworks, what they bring to the table.
Well, this is a conversation we've been having for like 3 or 4 years, you and I, isn't it, Lacoste? These, I remember very vividly, like, casting ESL Chinese qualifiers and stuff, and you were talking about how Clockwork 3 was pretty garbage, even in the 4 role.
Yeah, you remember. Long time ago, I always felt like this year was just not good on the offlane. I'm okay with the mid Clockwork. It's very skill shot based hero, but you need to hit your abilities, and it's momentum based. I'd say pretty similar to Tiny to one extent, where you tend to fall off if you don't get stuff done from the mid lane.
He's like a level-reliant Tiny, right? I mean, this whole argument is, the crux of it is that he relies on levels and experience rather than items. You would rather give him mid for the early 6 and the early levels, rather than give him farm priority through the game. Absolutely. There's not really any key items that he needs outside of like Aghanims or the Orchid that have popped up from time to time.
It just needs to have a good game, get the right pick off, not die after he initiate, which could be a problem. Oh, top lane, Panda move. Good body blocks.
Yeah. Get in front of him. Wolf scouted him. And there's El Misho already off to a good start. He'll get the bounty rune as well, as Radiant did ward deep over in that jungle to see if anyone was lurking around or rotating to that top rune spot. That's what this guy needed.
El Misho bought the boots as first item. Not sure if that was necessary. Like, you're not gonna run away from anything. You don't care about Ogre. You don't care about Morphling. I would prefer if that's a little bit more like stat-based, where you are gonna try to put some pressure in the lane.
Even just like a magic wand or something, maybe. But
Yeah, magic one seems fine. Like, you're playing against Ogre. Morphling doesn't get you much, but that's okay.
yeah, so maybe indication here that El Misho will be looking to guard that top rune for his mid-ember. Get a bit more active towards the mid lane.
Yeah, seems like he wants to move a little bit. Skywrath Mage is a hero that has a decent amount of move speed, 325. Some heroes don't even have that with boots. Almost.
370 now with boots. He's a speedy fella. And once Lycan, he's already hit level 4 actually, has the Helm and level 2 Feral Impulse. There's very little that's going to actually threaten to kill him. He has that natural regen inbuilt.
No, it's gonna be more about like supports if they can catch them off guard, because I don't think both Morphling and Lycan are gonna die. They just have way too much sustain. Lacoste already has Morbid Mask, so he's good to go. Trade.
And if things get a little bit too hairy, he could always go back into jungle if he wanted to. So how's that bot lane going then? Because I've been peeking in from time to time, and there's been a couple of little dives from Thunder, but it seems solid all around.
The Underlord seems to be doing really good. After all, it's Underlord. Like, this hero just dominates the lane. There's a couple of matchups that he doesn't like to play into, but almost always gets the farm. Like, he doesn't like Ursa, Monkey, Razor, these three heroes most of the time, but other than that, he does okay. And going into Vanguard next, which I think it's okay, just to have a little bit more tank ability, potentially survive through rotations from Ember Spirit, like that extra survivability that you need from the burst. Gardic.
Oh, Gardic. That's unfortunate. Came across to try and deward his camp. He's nearly trading his life, gets the sentry, but still dies for it. And a question about his item build, skill build here. The 201, I was wondering why Matthew had never really been caught out inside cogs or anything. Clockwork just not leveling it. You a fan of that in this lane?
They're not. They cannot get kills in this lane. It's way too difficult. So he just doesn't want to. Like, he wants to secure the range creep potentially and scout things out. I don't think he wants to trap people inside cogs, because look what's happening. Sacred against Yuma. Like, you use one Firestorm, you can trap yourself inside a Firestorm and you're gonna die.
Just kill yourself in your own little prison. Pandamu at the top rune spot. 6 minute comes. Arcane Rune spawns bottom, but the Ogre slighted by Analog's Ember. Analog not doing too badly for himself. Pretty much dead. Yeah, pretty much dead even with Dark Margot's CS as the spear whiffs.
Yeah, problem is the top lane. Something we didn't talk about is like, because they bought a lot of regen. Ogre bought a bunch of tangos that he shared with Morphling until Morphling got to his Morbid Mask, and it's very difficult the last hit. Like, even with the Wolves, Morphling is just a different kind of a beast in terms of last hitting. Bottom.
That TA. Yeah. Rotation in from Pandamu. You don't expect the position 5 Ogre to be roaming 6.5 minutes in. Finds the kill as the catapult wave connects with the tier 1 tower. Gardic has a pretty difficult job ahead of him, but he'll focus and zone in on the catapult, make sure that that is killed, even if it takes a lot of damage. And maybe even dies for his efforts, because Matthew and Pandamu, they are re-arriving in that bottom lane. Ignite Shikuchi, chase the clock into the trees. A couple of little pushbacks from the cogs. That will be the end of him. Did he do enough to save that tower? That's the question.
He killed the catapult, that's what matters. But the problem is your tower's probably still gonna fall, because I see Yuma running away from the bottom lane, like he just doesn't feel secure. Like, Clockwork's still gonna TP bottom, but the Underlord's gonna put a ton of pressure. Maybe a bit limited on the mana. It's being pinged out. They don't have any observer boards. They have a bunch of sentries. Yeah, Clockwork will still try to TP. Guard it. Maybe, you know. Should change his name. Hogs. I don't know if this is doing it. Underlord with Bloodlust. This is wild, Gareth.
But he's a monster. Just punching away at people. He had a ton of damage stacked up. It's all depleting now. But Matthew and him will clear out that additional wave, and the tower looks like it will just be falling naturally to the The creeps crashing over it. So now a
On
few
the top-
swap-ups from Hokori. Like, Yuma's gone mid. They've pushed that top tower with the Lycan and the Scarith Mage, and Analog is stacking up jungle for himself. What are Hokori kind of waiting for here before they can get into the thick of things?
Both supports are very level dependent on their side. Like, they need their level 6s to be able to kill, so someone's gonna need to soak up the experience bottom. Seems like it's gonna be Gardic. Just whatever comes near the tower, he's gonna get it, and Scarlet Mage will buy the book. So they need level 6 to be able to play and kill people. Because Templar Assassin does not want to join the fights. Lycan does have ulti. We might see Lycan trying to wrap around and go for the push with the 10-minute catapult.
Yeah, could do just that. Look at this Matthew Weaver, though. Stealing Ancients away from the Templar Assassin. They've got that ward coverage in the Radiant Triangle to see everything in the vicinity. Gardic. Well, Misho dying. Walked into the wrong neighborhood. But yeah, if the game continues this way, Morphling free farming in the jungle, you do have that fear that if Hokori don't start playing aggressively soon, like snap smoke when they do hit level 6s on their supports, this game could be out of their control pretty quickly.
It's gonna be very difficult playing into like mid-late game with what Thunder Awaken has. We didn't talk about Mars. Dark Mago has been silently farming, going for the Blink Dagger. He understands what his job is in this game. Just be able to initiate. First
There it
arena.
is. Tumbler's Toy. That's his initiation tool for now. 300 until Blink is ready, but the Wolf is coming. Shapeshift from Vitali. They're chasing in towards Dark Mago and Pandaboo. The spear back on the Ember keeps them at bay. And this Wolf, he's going to hunt Pandaboo down. I mean, it's a big tanky ogre, so it'll take a little while. But he's under no threat whatsoever with no arena available. But in comes Sacred with a pit, a spear down to low ground. Gives Gardic more safety than really he deserved.
They got Ogre only. Like Lycan used the ulti. Templar Assassin is farming up, but so is Morphling. Morphling's completely free farming. I don't think Pakaz will be joining any fight. What he wants to do is try to stay away from Skywrath Mage. Every single time ulti from Sky is used on someone, he's going to be okay with that.
Matthew. He was standing on a trap and he didn't know it. His ward going to get dewarded now, but that's 3 sentries Gardic has used here to try and clear the vision in the triangle. He thought the Ancients were also blocked, but they weren't. It was just body blocking from the Weaver.
One would even say that it was a rattle trap.
Well, he definitely
Gary,
rattled the Weaver there.
if the joke is not funny, you don't have to laugh. Like, you can just
No, so
ignore.
I didn't think it was funny immediately, but it was a trap, and if you rattle someone, you kind of tilting them. So yeah, he rattled the Weaver. So I think if you read deeper into your joke, even if you didn't intend it, it was funny.
Okay, so there was another layer of my joke that I was not aware of it. Gardic breaking the smoke and TPing out. Okay, what a play.
Where is he? He's just standing next to a fountain. Yeah, they cut the tree and realized there was someone nearby. Already long gone. We now have 6 on El Misho, 6 on Clockwork. We're ready to go.
This ward near the Dire Outpost scouted them out, so they know Dark Mago also has a Blink Dagger. Analog and El Misho are trying to find something. They try to find whatever. 1 point in Searing Chains is more than enough for Skywrath Mage to set things up.
Yeah, then they can just unload that tremendous amount of magic damage onto somebody. Dark Mago, slight chains. He throws the arena there, but he's trapped inside one that Clockwork's made, and that Mystic Flare, invisible as it might be, bursts the Mars down regardless. They do have this Fiend's Gate, though, allow Sacred and the rest to arrive and jump away from the Ember Spirit with his defensive remnant. Does give him a bit of safety while Pandamut does get the cleanup.
They open up the gate for Pakaz to join in, because he knows what I said. Just try to stay away from Skywrath Mage ulti. It was already used on Dark Mago. They burst him. Like Clockwork and Skywrath Mage do have burst potential. They can kill pretty much anyone. The problem is, like, they need to do it every single time Skywrath Mage is off cooldown. And it's 60 second, also 60 seconds on the hook shot, so they can sync very nicely.
And it feels like they don't want to catch these 5v5s, because that you know, for all intents and purposes was a 5v5 with the Fiend's Gate coming in. I think Hokori really want these, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 max heroes in an area that get a couple of kills. But I think more importantly, it needs to be across the river, near a tower, so Lycan can then push and get some kind of advantage. Because, okay, there you kill a Mars and it feels nice, but it doesn't get you a foothold anywhere else on the map. And you can see Hokori all on their side of the river just farming defensively.
Yeah, they need to be able to close the distance with Lycan as well. They need him in the fight to be able to get something out of it after the pickoff. It might be difficult playing into Underlord, playing into Mars, they instantly kill the wave. So I think one way to do it is wait until Helm of the Overlord is up. That's going to be big timing. Lycan needs 700. So no, he's very close. He needs 200 to finish it off.
Super close.
Yeah, and also Templar Assassin. Deso plus Helm is going to be big timing. That also opens up the Roche for them. So they try to take a fight at the top part of the map. If you split it into half. And go Roche. DD. Dark Mago snatches it.
Clockwork, chain stunned. Dark Margot's playing this very defensively, just waiting for another hero to come in and also making sure he's not the one caught in the cogs in the Mystic Flare. So that allows him to go on the Scarth Mage. Misses the spear, though. Still gonna nuke him down with a physical blast out of the God's Rebuke. And Analog does have a defensive remnant available to him. So toying with him a little bit here. Dodges the Rod of Atos just for a little bit, and there's no more catch for him as Lycan has shapeshifted. Charlie getting involved for about half a second before realizing this is not where he wants to be.
This is the problem that I mentioned, where Lycan doesn't have a clear target to go for. He tries to go on Mars, he gets God's Rebuke, he gets speared. Other targets also very difficult to kill. Pit of Malice, oh, hook shot.
Yeah, they catch that Weaver. Made sure Matthew's absolutely dead, but Pakas joining again. Margot missing yet another one. Uncharacteristic missteps from the Mars, but with this Ember Spirit dying to the Morphling, Analog so close to death, he tried the Fairy Fire. Wasn't enough, though, and Pandamu's got a stun with a spear connecting onto the Clockwork. Thunder, so good at these scrappy engagements, bringing the numbers and knowing how to utilize these opponents.
Oh, well, Misha needs to be careful. Sitting there alone in the trees, 1 second later, Dark Mago would be able to find him. This is going to be the tower. Pakas did finish his Manta style, so he doesn't have to care about Skyrat Mage anymore. Off to a really, really good start. He has 9,000 net worth, 15 minutes into the game. He also is very good. Oh, Elmisha's just gonna die here, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see how he sneaks away from this. Mystic Flare's thrown in, but he is demolished by this Pakas Morphling.
Kind of deserved tip. He showed his Manta style anyway, so no point to use the ulti there. You would want to either bait Manta style. At one point, maybe you would have enough window to try to go in again, because when he respawns, ult is still going to be on cooldown for 30. It's not the longest cooldown ulti, but yeah, you still want to have it available because this didn't achieve anything. And now Thunder Awaken, they're on the hunt.
Yeah, one by one, just dominoes toppling over. And this is one of the big things, right? You mentioned the cooldown. It's, a minute on Clockwork, a minute on Sky. There's, 2 minutes on the Lycan, basically. There are some cooldown dependencies here for Hokori to actually take fights and output the damage they need to get kills. And I think Thunder have exploited this perfectly. Mystic Flare, was used on the Ogre at the start of that previous fight. Lycan ulti was used, and Thunder just realized, hey, we've got Pit, we've got Shikuchi, Swarm, we can just run at them. We don't have any cooldowns outside of Mars ulti that we really need to wait for.
Supports on Thunder Awaken are doing a good job of baiting Skyrat Mage ulti, because it feels good to kill people with it.
Yeah, they just come sweeping down into bottom lane. Pakas on a mega kill streak now. Unkilled, untouched, 5-0-0. And a tier 2 in some trouble.
Yeah, this is the reason why you don't pick Lycan into Mars. It's just a very difficult matchup. You also are not a hero that buys BKB anymore. You are prioritizing other items, so you are not able to deal damage. And this is what Mars is going to be looking for mostly in the fights. Also, you're playing into Pit of Malice.
Yeah.
And Rod of Atos. So I don't think Lycan's gonna have a good game anymore. He was off to a good start in the laning stage, but once Thunder Awaken gets their items online, and the time goes by, it just becomes way more difficult for him to play the game. Also, one thing we didn't mention is Morphling against Ember Spirit matchup. This is something that the Ember doesn't like to do, because he's gonna looking for that pretty much every single fight, where he has Flame Guard for some extra magic resistance, and also Searing Chains. Root Mechanic, pre-BKB on Ember, gonna be big. Like, even post-BKB, you still have Slight, you deal a ton of damage because you have a bunch of Agi.
Yeah, that's why Analog rushing that BKB after the Orb of Corrosion, just to try and give him some of that safety. Would you like Lycan to try and maybe roleplay as Beastmaster, stay top and split push to make a little bit more map space? Maybe you feed a little bit, but you're getting something for the rest of your team? Or is he absolutely required in every team fight?
He's definitely needed. They need to be able to, like, bait Mars Arena potentially. Ooh, this Vanguard keeping him alive, but another Slight is going to finish him off.
They do have to stick around a little bit longer than they would have liked, though. El Misho does get a hidey hole in the trees, though. That means Thunder can't get anyone on the retreat. They get one observable kill, and they spot Analog, actually. One Fire Remnant remaining. He's thrown another one out as well. Let's see where he jumps, because Matthew and Dark Margot, I'll see him in a sec, and he goes into Dire Triangle. He's going to find a courier kill. Gardic dying to Pakaz in the meantime, just soloed in that bottom jungle. You can feel the fear of Hokori. Two heroes are sat up top, waiting in the trees, hoping someone TPs to come and defend this top tier 2. They will just leave it be.
Oh, they showed some heroes mid. Good move from Hokori, understanding that they need to go for this kind of a play. Sacred going for upgraded
Crimson?
Vanguard. Yeah, Crimson against Lycan, against Sleight of Fist, even Temper Assassin. This is going to be a huge item. Like, this is going to be pretty damn big. Just to have extra damage reduction on top of your Atrophy Aura, which is not maxed out. I like what he went for this time around. Having that Pit of Malice early on to set things up, playing against Ember Spirit and Lycan. Just the value from it increases so much.
And if your heroes are already reasonably tanky already, having that Crimson on top makes them near unkillable. Think about this. Ogre, the Morphling, Underlord, super strong as a Ewell Spear comes in onto Gardic's Clockwork.
It might be time to Roche, but just try to poke it, see what happens. Akazi's going in.
And you can basically solo it at this point. We'll have the backup of his team.
They're still going to take the fight. Clockwork is out in 15 seconds. I feel like they're going to try to do so. Oh, seems like not.
Yuma didn't expect this, and the pit is there to trap her. Rod of Aos will come, so permanently rooted. And a kill on the TA as they all get in the Fiend's Gate. Away we go to the Roche pit again.
Lycan's pushing top. This is some serious damage on tier 3 tower.
Yeah, well, if there is no fight, this is where he belongs. Realizing there wasn't a chance, Clockwork hooks in, attempting to steal a Dire kill and take the Aegis. Pakaz with another kill. 9-0 now on the Morphling. Vitali's being pinged out. He does have Tumbler's Toy TP. Don't think they should be able to catch him. We'll see what Dark Margot can do here with a blink and a spear. Maybe a dream of finding this Lycan in the woods. He sees the creeps. He doesn't know the hero's still around, though. Definitely some good moves from Hokori, though, right? This Analog Ember Spirit was cutting bottom lane after that little move into mid and remnants around. Lycan, of course, shoving out top. So they are spreading this map pretty wide and forcing Thunder to maintain the lanes and come back and defend. The fact that Matthew, though, here finds El Misho and Yules dodges the Mystic Flare, the majority of the damage wasted, means Gareth Mage gets bursted down by the Firestorm. And Matthew's final touch.
Thunder Awaken, like, they have space, all the space in the world to go for the tier 2 towers. I would say someone needs to take care of top, because they already used Glyph, so they don't have it for another 4 minutes. No Fiend's Gate as well. Maybe Underlord should be that guy. He does have a Crimson Guard, which does work on the buildings as well. They found Gardic again. Hook shot.
Wants to be the one to catch people. Is he going to try hook shot to creeps or something? Just let himself die and respawn in 30 seconds. Top lane. Vitali also being found here by Pakaz. Morphling solo killing the Lycan. Well, he's the one to come up and defend. And a spear mid catches Ember. Atos into pit. They've got the root control, and one by one they all fall. Analog has the BKB and Slight, looking to maybe topple over Dark Margot, but he offers so much physical damage. And this Crimson Guard now up means the TA doing very little. Speared inside the arena. Pandamu and Sacred coming back in. The silence, though, on this Underlord means the trap really making his life difficult, but a miserable scenario for Yuma and Hokori as their heroes are being shredded by Thunder.
They're falling apart. It's just no real moves. Hokori does not have a counterplay to do what Thunder Awaken brings to fights. Like, they don't have real team fight. They try to go for a little bit of a split push. Pakaz buys Boots of Travel after Power Treads just to be able to deal with the split push. And now off to high ground. Underlord has extra 150 damage, so this barracks is gone. Having Morphling with Aegis and also Bloodlust Death Underlord, come on.
Yeah, get the heavy hitter punching even faster. Oh, this is the scenario that we definitely feared from the perspective of Hokori, with lane stage going well for Thunder. They had that 2-3k net worth lead kind of 10 minutes in, and the aggression from Hokori just came too late with their supports hitting 6 so late. And it's going to be 2 lanes, it looks like, at the very least. Second melee barracks bottom. Morphling, he's just gone in. He's blown up the sky. Does have buyback, but Elmisho holding it as Pakar Sacred, now Matthew charging towards Fountain. Thinking about the dive, but relaxing a little bit, returning to objective-based gaming to clear out the barracks. Pakars with his stolen slide chains removes the clockwork from the game, and it looks like the fact that they're not buying back on Radiant, this game seems kind of over. They'll have one more attempt, take the Aegis there. Ember Spirit just waiting for everyone else to respawn. While Lycan and TA, they're out on the map pushing elsewhere.
Yeah, they're playing PvE pretty much at this point. Morphling TP stop. They want to close out this game as soon as possible. Clockwork has 11 deaths in 24-minute game, so a little bit less than 2 deaths per minute.
They have a sentry here. Matthew's going to CTA. Oh, no, that's an observer. Oh, I'm a liar. That's an observer ward. It looked like he put a sentry from his backpack
Gary?
into inventory. Sorry, Lacoste, what?
Are you colorblind?
Well, it was moving from backpack to inventory, so it was great.
Okay, I forgive you.
It was like a split-second frantic click on the Weaver. Does he have revealed? Yes, he's got... No, it's an observer ward. The disappointment. Still looking perfect for Thunder, though. 2 lanes up. Top lane under assault now. And buyback-wise, Hokori have Ember Clock Sky ready to
Let's go.
return.
Desperation smoke from Hokori. They want to end this game for Thunder Awaken. Get outside of the base, die, call it.
Yeah. Last chance saloon. One last hurrah. They will fight them at their tier 3s. But I just don't see a way that they can defend this base. Maybe with a cheeky pick on Matthew. Yules away from the Ancient Seal and a bit of damage. The Clockwork, hook shots in. Matthew, time lapses back though. And they've got the Spear Arena on Analog. Trying to clear up the Ember before he can get any more maneuverability out. And he's dead with the Lycan inside these circles. Thunder, bring the pain. And Pakaz, a perfect game for him. 14-0-3 as they approach tier 4s. And there's the GG.
Absolutely brilliant performance from Pakaz in this one. Like, Ogre went in through his body to be able to secure him. Last hits early on, shared a bunch of tangos. Like, Lycan did get a lot of farm. It's just almost impossible game for Lycan to play. Like, because maybe I don't even know, Gary, what went wrong. Because mid lane is a bit difficult. Like, I don't think you can get a kill on Mars. He's just way too tanky. Maybe with some rotations from Skyrat Mage to get Ember Spirit off to a better start, and then try to play it from there. Also, first couple of Sky ultis were used on both supports. Like, they didn't get any kills. They got one later on Mars, but you wanted to get like higher priority target, because every single time the ulti is used, Morphling is just, all right, a minute I can do whatever the hell I want, because the other heroes can't really kill him.
Yeah, like, looking at Hokori's draft, they've got elements of greatness there. I felt like in isolation their draft isn't that bad, but against what Thunder Awaken have, the Morphling, these tanky heroes between Underlord, Mars, and the Ogre, it was incredibly difficult for them to do anything. And, they kind of stuck in the rut of being passive, farming the TA, and kind of waiting for a moment that would never come. I'm
looking at the hero damage in this game of Lycan, lowest damage overall. So
TA has a nice number though, 6666. Not a high number, But a nice number.
That's Ramses' cousin, the older brother. I don't know. I just this was last pick, like, and what you want to get from your last pick is something that is going to have a bigger impact. So they got to try to figure out which heroes counter which one in the second game, and not go for the weaker one, I'd say.
That is a very good, sound tactical plan. But on the other side, Thunder Awaken, proving that even with the hiccup against Infamous at the start of the season, they've now, dominated 3 games in a row in like 20 minutes, honestly, against SG and now against Hokori. But it's back to the panel with Snare and the rest to break down this game 1.
Whew, this game 1 was utter domination, as we've seen again and again from Thunder Awaken. And Gareth just mentioned it. After they lost that first game against Infamous, they've just been on a tear ever since. And here we get another example of that. I mean, we need to talk about Thunder Awaken, of course, but unfortunately, Kips, Sexy Fat, we cannot avoid talking about that last pick Lycan. It did not work out. Sexy Fat, you were talking about, you and Lacoste shared the same trepidation about this hero into a Mars, into the team fighting prowess that Thunder Awaken had. And we see that this hero did practically nothing, the least amount of hero damage, as Lacoste said. And the only thing he really kind of did here was that one push during the Roshan attempt, did some damage on the tier 3. But looking back on this game, did you find any more reasons why they picked the Lycan in this game here, Sexifat?
No, I did not. They needed like most online heroes they could pick to snowball the game, and they just picked a countered hero in the game.
It was sort of counted from the onset, and unfortunately, Kips, not only was that Lycan not played in the best position overall, but they gave away the premier weapon to the side of Thunder Awaken. They gave them the Pakaz Morphling. That was his 80th game on the hero. Up until this point, 79% win rate. But his performance in this game, I really cannot stress enough how well he did, right? You were talking about how value Manta Style is on that hero in this game. He gets the very early Manta Style, immediately utilizing it to destroy the Gareth Mage, making the game for that hero impossible. But check this out, right? That Manta that he got, 3rd fastest on the patch. His Eye of Skadi, 3rd fastest on the patch, 8 seconds faster than his previous record that he did. He buys a Orchid, 2nd fastest all time, and then 5 seconds before the throne explodes, he buys a Bloodthorn, fastest all time on the hero. Probably decent. He's okay at this hero, isn't he? He's alright.
Yeah, he's alright, and I think he definitely showed why he takes this hero instead of the Medusa, because the more I looked at, the more I'm like, holy crap, like all of this burst damage coming from the enemy team, they also have the tools to negate it. You're scared of the magic damage, you just steal the Ember, you get the Flame Guard. You're scared of the physical damage, you steal the TA, and you get her Refraction, plus the Ogre Magi on top of that. Like, I used to be such a big advocate for Ogre Magi getting picked versus burst damage lineups, and I completely just whiffed it on the draft this time, and we load into the game and I'm like, oh snap, Ogre Shard versus burst damage. There's no way Hokori get out enough damage this game, and especially not versus this Morphling. Like, I love that you bring up the stats, because I have a stat here as well actually, which is that Pakaz is by far and away the highest kill average on in the SA DPC tier 1. He gets on average 14 kills per match, and the next closest are all carries, and they all get about 10. So he gets, on average, 4 kills more than anybody else.
I love that you bring this one up, right? Because it's not just in South America. Just before the major started last season, I was taking a look at Pakaz's stats, and I found not just that he's the best in South America by far on that stat. There were only 2 players on the planet who came even close. One was Yopaj, and we should all remember, though Boom didn't do that well at the major, how much on a tear they were just beforehand. They looked incredible. And the other player at the time was maybe Somnus, who had to do a lot of heavy lifting in his team, of course, so that sort of padded his stats in a particular way. But certainly, Pakaz, just incredible player. Another thing that they did really well, though, here, Sexy Fat, is they were able to really abuse the map. Usually when we see these teams go for heroes like Lycan, having, say, Ember, TA, at the very least, they assume that they'll be able to utilize mass mobility to stay away from the opposing heroes, push out the waves, stretch them thin across the map. But that didn't really happen here. Like, how did Thunder Awaken kept constantly finding ways to get them and involve them in team fights without any reprisal? What could they have done differently on Hokori to at least keep the game going in that way?
Oh, that's a tough one, but I'll have to say probably not pick Lycan. Because I really think they have no options, because Ember couldn't play the game well before his BKB. Lycan couldn't play the game like at all, and TA was counter 2 in the game and even had like a bad lane. So it was like one hero recovering from bad start and two heroes that needed to farm a lot to hit some early items to able to get to fight. So I don't think they could pressure at all in all game, and they were playing on a clock. Like they had Morphling on the other side, and they have 0 picks to deal with Morphling. So I don't think they could do nothing different.
What kind of sucks as well is that it's a bit of a problem when the enemy team can just pick one item that immediately counters out your last pick hero. We still got a super early Crimson Guard that came out of the Underlord, and suddenly what's Lycan going to do? Absolutely nothing. Literally did nothing after that point in the game, and just too difficult. So let us hope that when we get into game 2, Hokori do not pick Lycan last pick, or at the very least, make this Lycan hero work. Because there is a reason why he has a 67% win rate in the DPC overall, and 100% win rates here in, well, before this game in South America, at the very least. So we need to make sure that they have something up their toolkit, up their sleeve. Are there any surprise heroes here, Kips? If you're in their position, right? Cast your mind back to your coaching days. What are you telling them? What are you trying to think about in ways of outsmarting Thunder Awaken? Because you're certainly not going to outplay them at this level, at least.
No, and that's a bit of a problem because usually what I do is like, all right, we take a step back and we go to at least make sure that you get to play the game, right? Because they lost the lanes, like all of them except mid, basically. And then also they didn't have any playmakers after in order to actually, as Sexyfat just said, right? You can't make any moves because you chose a Lycan instead of any playmaker on a position that normally has one. So at the very least, I'd go back in the draft, make sure that your lanes are a little bit more solid, that you have playmakers, that you have outs. I want to see team fight control so that, when this Morphling or whatever Pakaz is going to play next game, right? Whenever he comes next game, he hits an item timing, he comes at you, and they all just storm up the high ground, like 4 people holding hands there. You can actually drop something like a Ravage, like a Winter Wyvern ult, something to punish them for this aggression. Like, because they are going to come at you. And you're right, I don't think you win the team fights if you come at them first, but maybe you can counter. So, yeah, I think I convinced myself during this monologue that that's what I do. I'd see if I could use their confidence against them and get something that punishes overly aggressive teamfight dives.
Actually, that brings to mind something quite interesting that I've been seeing in some other regions, particularly in China, in terms of counter initiation and trying to stop fights after they've started. Heroes like Dawnbreaker have often been involved in the offlane, but started to see more and more of this Warlock in the past 5 and having him just sit back, wait for the kind of initiation to come in. But more than that, I think, is we were speaking earlier, at least in China, about what this hero can provide and where the meta is going. And Sexyfat, in the advent of the nerfs to the south, it does seem like these heroes that can provide some degree of sustain in the lane are much more valued. And heroes like Warlock, who not only give you broken sustain after you get that shot, it's kind of ridiculous, but also have counter initiation. Is that something that you expect that we might start seeing in South America as well?
Definitely. As I said before, like the meta for me is like both teams trying to initiate, right? So the next meta will be a team trying to figure out how to counter these initiations, and people are already doing this, right? You mentioned about Dawnbreaker, which is an excellent hero for this. Like you heal the enemy that get initiated, and afterwards you even stun the enemy heroes. And Warlocks is also a good hero for the same reason. Plus the laning stage healing, like after they nerfed Salve, it got a bit hard for hard carry players on laning phase.
Carry players need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. Stop relying on charity. Game was hard. Honestly, this meta was very difficult. I've been playing 5 a lot and it's not been fun, at least before the nerf. Now I've at least been enjoying life, being like, yes, just play better, don't die. Don't end up just trading for nothing. But going into this in the next game, it's going to be quite interesting to see exactly what's going to pan out here. And one thing, just before we see how this draft is going to be panning out here, kids, if Hokori end up losing, suddenly they're down to 2 losses, right? And their opening matchup, sure, you can say, well, it's the opening day blues. Similar thing happened to Thunder Awaken themselves, but going down 0-2 in a situation where Beast Coast looking very good right now. Obviously, later today, we have Tempest playing. Infamous has been looking strong. Thunder Awaken obviously looking amazing. do you start to, as Hokori, if you lose this game, lose hope about making it to the major in the kind of form everybody else is also playing in?
Yes. Like, there is actually a lot of pressure on this map, and maybe that is also why their draft looked so wonky, because they were trying too hard. You often get, like, sort of stress fractures because of that. Like, you deviate from the plan a little bit, people suddenly get either way more selfish or way too selfless. There's two ways to react to stress, right? You turn inwards to yourself, or you turn outwards to your team and like, okay, I can't do it, so they gotta have to do it. And this looked a bit like everybody was like, okay, I can make this game work if you just give me my hero. So yeah, there's a lot of tension on this one, because I think that barring any other tiebreaker shenanigans, you are out of the running for the major if you lose this one.